Hey folks, thanks again for tuning in to Dude Craft Guitars. We got a whole new day at the Dude Rant series. Oh, and guess what? We're in the new shop. Kinda. As you can see, I still got a lot of the French cleat stuff to cover, a lot of still things to build. Look around and you'll see there's still a big mess from what we're doing to the shop itself, what I'm doing on guitars, get them ready to go. And then of course we got this project. So we are doing the Hairy Scary bass as we promised, the Hairy Scary heart bass. And one of the things I think that we didn't touch on, if you saw the last episode, and if you didn't, go see it. Where I interviewed Spike Mike from the Spice Pistols and talking about the bass. One thing that we didn't touch on, he mentioned, like we both did lightly, that we're building two, but we forgot to mention why we're building two. It's pretty cool. We're building one, of course, so he could get back on tour playing the Hairy Scary heart bass. We're building the other one so that he could put it on his eBay site and he's going to auction it off. Now, if you guys recall, the whole premise behind this was the fact that he lost all his basses in a fire, a house fire, including the Hairy Scary heart bass. And so we're rebuilding the Hairy Scary heart bass to help him recover from that fire and have a bass to play. That's the reason why we're building the second one. If you didn't recall the first one, or if you don't know anybody who's ever been through this, house fires are devastating. Insurance is what it is. It's never enough. Money never replaces what you've lost, sentimentally and all the other values. But there's still money involved in the recovery process. And so to help him regain some of those funds that can't be regained otherwise, we're building a second bass for him to auction off. It's going to be auctioned off on his site. All the profits go to him. He gets that, and he gets to help rebuild other things that he lost in the financial woes of rebuilding his life after the fire. So that's why we're building two. So we're going to build two at the same time, together, in the same method, with the same finish, same hardware, everything. One is going to be put in a case for Mike to get back on tour. The other one's going to be put in a case, put on his site for one of you to bid on it, to get a really cool bass, hopefully at a decent price enough for you, but also decent fundraiser enough for him. A little bit of both. So anyway, so follow along. You're going to be watching us do this. We're going to start right over there on the other side of this room. Is where I've got my chop saw set up. Yes, this whole time I've been cutting with handheld. What do they call those things? Circular saws. The saw that goes in a circular motion. Yeah, I've been cutting cross cuts with that. I've had a cross cut sled on my table saw. All these funky things. I wanted a place to put a chop saw. I've got a chop saw now. So we're going to cut that thing to the length based on the drawing that we did on last episode. So we're doing a neck-thru design. So that's what we're doing here. And so I'm going to get that going, and let's get this build happening, eh? All right. Stick around. Thanks. Since we all know center line is crucial, and I'll probably mention it at least one more time during this build, we're creating center line. So that's what we got going on here. Now, what I'm going to do is these necks, I'm going to build them as on a taper. And I'm doing two, so I'm doing one on each side here. That's what we got going on. So it's just one of those things, so as you measure about 20 times, then hopefully only have to cut it once and not have to recut it. And so I've got center line, I've got taper going on each side. Very simple, very easy stuff. And in this case, just doing it twice. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me do everything twice on this. Just know that the one time I'm doing it, and then it's going to be done again. And this is just good old shop equipment, just sawing it, getting it done. Now the wood we're using here is Meranti. It is a type of mahogany. It comes from the Philippines. And because it's grown in a very arid area, try that one. Anyway, yeah, because it's grown
in a place that's very arid. It therefore, once it's dried and cured and ready to use, it becomes lightweight, very, very porous. Much the same way swamp ash or southern ash is versus northern ash, which dry climate versus arid climate. Here we go. Just get it all nice and planed down, nice and surfaced. And now back to some live action for you. Right about here.
Well, that was fun. Basically what I've got is a standard neck taper going on with 2 pieces. So this, you don't have to make a neck through this way. I know some guys don't. They'll go just standard block, and then they won't bother tapering until once they start getting to shaping the neck. I like to just get it all done. And I think it looks cool. I think it looks really cool if we were to do a piece that was, say for instance, if these were a laminate and there was 3 or 5 pieces of wood laminated, and we were doing a piece that was going to be exposed wood. So I don't have to do this method that I'm doing now, but it's in good practice, because again, when you're doing neck-thru type guitar and you're doing, say, one of natural wood, say, like I said, if I had, like walnuts, maybe some Pt2, some Purple Heart, some, Wangay, something else going on with the woods and the maple, and then say I had like a nice swamp ash or something like that for the wing areas. I mean, it would just really look really slick doing it this way versus straight cut line, then all of a sudden taper into the neck. So it just gives it like this nice even flow look to it. And for me, it's just become a practice of doing it that way, even when I'm doing something like this. Not to digress any more than possible. Now, when it comes to routing, I'm going to need to route the channel for the truss rod, and I am definitely putting carbon fiber rods in these because we are just using a single piece, and we're using basically riffs on by the time we're done. Where we came off of that board, it's not going to be vertical cut. It's going to be a riff cut. So we're going to make sure that we not only put truss rod, but carbon fiber rods in as well.
Now, normally I would use a fence on my router and just go with a straight bit and slice it that way. But since we got a taper, that won't work. So we're going to pull out an oldie but goodie here. And you could tell this thing's been through some battles. And, may have lost a battle or two, but did not lose the war. So it's still in there, still hard fighting soldier, and we're going to put it to use. Yes, that's right. We have a routing template. This one, it means you got to use that little brass bearing thing you see I've got there, and which means sometimes it kind of sticks to the edges. You got to work it, and you can see the Shinto rasp there. I had to make things work to get the template to cooperate and go through a couple times, and then you've got yourself a slot. And just to make sure it's deep enough, we'll see what this guy has to say about it.
Well, now that we've got the channel kind of dug, it might be deep enough, and it might not. Hopefully it's not too deep, but we're going to test it to find out. So what we're going to do is get out the good old calipers. I like using millimeters. You could use inches if you like, and then see what it should be at its tallest or deepest. Okay, so we're looking just over 9 millimeters, about 9.1, but it wouldn't let me lock. Yeah, 9.11. Okay, and now I'm going to take this end and just see where it sizes up down there in the groove. So it's actually a little shallow yet. So it looks like we've got about 2 more millimeters to go. If I pair it up against this, that gap is exactly what I'm seeing. So pretty much all I got to do is lay this puppy up against there and pull it out to that 9.11 level from the bottom of this to the inset of my tool. Should be about the same depth of the groove that I'm going to make now. Okay, and this little porta cable router is just perfect at getting just the little bitty bits. Get it down to just the last little nib. And I don't mind it a little bit deep because we're going to sand the surface a little bit before we put the fretboard on anyway.
And we'll just get it just a little bit deeper, and then come back, and of course got to vacuum everything out. And there you go, get it all vacuumed nice and clean. And should be pretty good. Might need to chisel a little bit, but that's what we do.
Now, the majority of the time, the way I set up these two shops is that the doors open into each other and give me like a little, I want to call it mezzanine, but I know that's not the right term. A little alleyway in between. What that actually does, it gives me an extra 8x4 workspace. But I don't know if you could hear it through the roof, but it's raining. So on the rare occasions that it is going to rain around here, I am going to be using the vacuum in here. Otherwise, my big plan wasn't for this place to be the dusty shop. The dusty shop is still where you see me work all along, and then for the really heavy dust stuff will be that little alleyway in between. And that's kind of how I have it designed, and it worked. This is Tuesday. I spent most of the weekend in a stupor because I got my Moderna booster on Friday, and I believe there was a big football game on Sunday. I got to watch a little bit of that, basically one eye at a time, because I was also fighting a migraine, because what happens in Southern California is what we had happen during the Super Bowl. If you watched it, they were talking about Santa Ana conditions, and what that is, that's a high pressure system. You know, we get that offshore flow, so all the winds come out of the desert. We had 92-degree weather Monday, Sunday and Monday. It was in the 90s here. So, and now it's raining and it's like 50 something. So it's a good 31, 32 degrees warmer or cooler today all day long than it was the last 2 days. So it's just crazy. Yeah, so that's kind of just thrown things off a little bit. Because now I'm trying to play catch up and get work done, and it's like really hard because I wasn't really ready to have to pull everything inside to do this. But we said we were going to get this video going, and I was hoping to have this episode edited and running today instead of actually just filming it today. So kind of working on it. What can I say? Now on these truss rods, they're pretty slim. I got real nice ones. These are from Bitterroot, and they don't take up a big gougy spot right up in here, which is nice because a lot of them do. They have that big bulky end. This one's not too bad, but I do still have to dig out a little bit extra versus the rest of the channel, which is why we put a volute right here. So this applies. I don't care where you get your truss rod. You should always take them and give them a little test. I just have these pliers to hold on the end. And then you just want to twist it. Make sure that it bows really nice and smoothly and easily. And then it also flexes. I don't think you need to watch me, do the next one. You saw how I got through that one. I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'll do the carbon fiber ones the same way. It's just I'm going to change over to the smaller bit.
And now, just like that, like magic, the carbon fiber slots have been all routed. Carbon fiber rods are in there, shaved down to their right height, and now we are getting ready for the fretboards. Now my fretboards, what I do here is I want to make sure they go on. I get them in the raw. If you see that ebony there, it's obviously way too wide for this project. I get them pretty raw. I mean, they need sanding, they need shaving. That's what I'm doing here, just shaving the edges, making sure that they're nice and planed down. And then I'm going to run it through the bandsaw once I figured out exactly how much I need for each one. And you see I've got them taped. I'm doing 2, so this is the best way, just to do 2 at a time when you want the same measurement. Just tape them up. And then you see there, I get the 2 pieces that are cutoffs. Those will probably be used later. I'm thinking I'll probably make a multi-laminate type of fretboard later, or, who knows, it could also be used for binding. And this is my little jig for making the slots. I've got a little jeweler's blade in there that I paid about $12,000 for from Stu Mac. I might exaggerate a little bit on the price. They're very, very pricey, but I get a lot of use out of the thing. Had it for a while, and look at that, all the slots are in there. And there you go. Now let's see what we do with it from here.
Okay, you guys want to see something that I think is pretty slick. Anyway, the importance of having center line is obviously there. One of the ways we do it is get yourself a centering ruler. You find center, you mark center, get yourself a straight edge, and then lay it down, trace your center. Boom. That's just how center's done. What I have done is I have noticed that instruments have a taper. They all have, a common taper, whether it end up at 42 millimeters and start at 68 millimeters, end up 42 millimeters, or start at 62 millimeters, end up at 50 millimeters, whatever. They end up having a taper, and it's usually based on scale, length, but somewhere along the way, if you make yourself a taper stick, which I've done here, and then have the center line already marked on it, all you've got to do then is just match up your edges and then match up your center lines. Now I've made myself some holes just to verify that my center line is accurate along the way, and I can do this now and get pretty doggone close, which, when it comes to Lou theory, that's all that matters, right? You're building guitars, just be close, you make it close enough, No, it actually is pretty accurate. And if you ever wonder, then once you've got your marks, you could still come back with your center ruler and just double check, verify, because it might be a little bit off, or it might be spot on like that one.
Now, since I like to have everything all nice and neat when it comes to doing this, obviously I want everything to be straight. I'm going to use some pins, some lineup pins. In this case, it's just little plastic sticks, the same kind we use for side markers. And I'm just gluing them in place on the board itself so that I don't lose position later, and also so I easily can put them on. Now here I'm just gluing in a little bit of wood I happen to get from popsicle sticks, but it's pretty good wood. It's birch or something like that, and it just goes right in there. That just holds the truss rod down a little bit. It's not necessary, but I think it keeps the rattling to a minimum. And then I'm just taping over it so no glue gets in there. Remember, we tested to make sure it works. We want it to work smoothly later too. And again, just that little bit of tape there keeps everything from rattling too. And now we've got it all lined up. It's just a matter of getting the glue. Now this is just Type Bond 3, probably my favorite glue all along. So that's what I use the most, and there it is. And since we're doing 2 at a time, I face them together. That way they both clamp into each other, and I only have to use 1 set of clamps. See, I try to line them up, get them nice, evenly spaced as possible, and then flip over and fill in those spaces. Don't need to use a lot of clamps, but I've got them, and this is towards the end of the day, so there it is. Hey, if you really like what you're seeing here and you want to watch along, please click the like, subscribe button, and ring the bell for notifications. Appreciate it. Thank you.